Hello and welcome back to Connor's Chemistry. Well, what we do is have a look at some exam questions. We're going to go through this specimen paper for the chemistry. And it's quite nice because it tells us this question is about calcium. So the first thing I would suggest we do is let's write in things we know about calcium. So we know its symbol is Ca, we know it's a metal, we know it's part of the reactivity series. So already we're preparing ourselves for the question. So the question then says, what type of compound is calcium oxide? So we know a compound is two or more elements chemically combined together, and they're calling it calcium oxide. Now the formula for calcium oxide is CaO. Okay, so if we have a look at the options, only worth 1 mark, so it should be relatively easy. Tick one box, so I'm going to be very clear that I'm only going to tick one of them. Is it an acid? Well, I know it's definitely not an acid because it contains no hydrogen, and to be an acid it needs to contain hydrogen. It might be a base, not too sure about that one yet. It's not a carbonate because actually that would be CO or CO3 2 minus. So we know it's not carbonate. Let's cross that one off as well. And we know actually it's not a salt. So the answer must be a base. Okay, and that's be a nice easy mark in our first question. The next one then says, ionic compounds, such as calcium oxide, have high melting points. Complete the sentences, use words from the box. So we know ionic compounds, calcium oxide, so we know actually it's a metal and a non-metal. And ionic compounds lose or gain electrons. They're either going to lose or they're going to gain those negative charges, so those electrons. So let's have a look at what the question says. Calcium oxide has a giant ionic lattice in which there are strong electrostatic something of attraction in all directions. Now actually strong electrostatic bonds doesn't really work. Forces is our possible answer. Strong electrostatic ions of attraction, that doesn't make sense. Electrostatic layers of attraction, that doesn't make sense, so our answer must be forces. Okay, and again, nice easy mark for the first question. And the next question is a very common question of paper 1 chemistry. So it's showing you a figure of the electronic structure of an oxygen atom and calcium atom. And remember, with atoms they will have the same number of protons and neutrons because they're atom, they have no charge. Okay, so there's no charge in those. And we can see they've drawn them 2 on the first shell, then we've got 6 on the outside, and then calcium's got 2, full shell of 8, another full shell of 8, and then 2 on the outside. So already we're getting our brain ready to answer the question. Then says, describe how the calcium atom and the oxygen atom forms calcium oxide. You should give the charge on each of the ions formed. Okay, now because we know ions lose or gain electrons, we're going to have to work out which one loses and which one's going to gain. And the way we do that is trying to think of how they're going to fill that shell. So if we take oxygen for example, to get oxygen to fill this shell, it needs to gain 2 or try and push away those 6, and that nucleus is not going to be able to do that. So it's probably going to want to gain 2 electrons. Okay, this one's already got 2 on the outside, so actually rather than trying to pull in another 6 to fill that shell, it's probably going to want to lose those 2 electrons. Alongside electrons, right? So the answer then says, and is quite clear to describe, we could write calcium will lose 2 electrons, and then our oxygen will gain 2 electrons. Now actually that sentence there is actually just the 1 mark. Okay, we have to be very clear that 2 electrons are transferred. That's our second mark, and it did ask for the charge on each of the ion formed. So actually because I know calcium has lost 2 electrons, that makes it a 2+, and because oxygen has gained 2 electrons, it makes it 2 negative. Because if we think about the amount of positive charges we have, because that never changes in atoms to ions, if we still have 8 protons, we're now gaining 2 extra electrons, which means it has a 2 negative charge, and calcium lost 2 negative charges, so the balance of positives and negatives is 2 plus 2 more 2 pluses. This is the bog standard question that they're going to ask you in the exam. If you notice, they've put oxygen and calcium around the wrong way, and normally in an ionic compound we would have the metal first followed by the non-metal. Okay, that's our first question.